Hi guys. We'll just wait for Raj for a couple of minutes. He'll be joining anytime soon.
Hi Raj,
Hey man, how are you?
welcome to the show.
Thank you.
To all those who are watching, welcome to Candid with Lockdown with Uche Vichar featuring Raj Fidai. Raj is the assistant coach and performance analyst at Hyderabad FC. We're glad to have you here on our show, Raj.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man.
So how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Just at home, missing football.
Yeah, that's something very common to anyone who loves football.
Yeah,
So,
man.
yeah. So we just wait for a couple of minutes for more people to join in. Till then, we can just chat up about your time till now
Sure,
and
sure,
your journey.
definitely. So, like, should I start from the beginning or just
Yeah,
like
right
tell
from
you
the
about?
start.
Oh, okay. So, I got into analysis because of the course I was doing in Portugal.
Okay.
I had no idea, like zero idea about analysis before that. And like I was coaching 1 year before, 2 years before traveling to Portugal.
Hmm.
And even while I was coaching at that time, I never felt the importance or the need for analysis or to, look at the game from a different perspective where you can change things or you can learn more things from it.
True.
So that was the turning point for me. That was the point where I was like, okay, this is important, and we need to do this, and let's start doing this.
Yeah.
So I got. So we were supposed to do an internship for like minimum 2 months at a
Hmm.
professional club, and I applied to uh, like a lot of clubs in Portugal, and one of them was Estoril, who took me in,
Yeah.
and so my role there was as an assistant coach and also an analyst, and that is
Okay.
where I got exposed to analysis for the first time. That is where I was doing it like in real life, and I wasn't just like learning, I was also implementing it. So that was a good thing for me. And after the first 2 months, they liked the work, they liked what I was doing there, and then they were like, why don't you join us full time, irrespective of the internship, you just work here. So I was like, that's great because I'm getting to do what I like. So that's when things started, becoming very clear about analysis for me. And I met up with a lot of other coaches who also used to do analysis, other analysts, and I learned a lot. I got a lot of experience. I made a lot of good connections who I still keep in touch with about analysis, about coaching. I keep learning from them, and then unfortunately the management of the club changed. So I came back here and I started working with Hyderabad FC.
Hmm.
And here my role is a bit more inclusive, where I'm not an intern but I'm like a full-time employee. So I'm on the pitch all the time. When I'm not on the pitch, I'm with a laptop analyzing. So
Okay.
it's more of like getting into the action at
Yeah. Yeah.
every second.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what happened till now.
Hmm. So can you hear my voice properly, or is it echoing when I say something?
No, I can hear it. I can hear it probably.
Okay, okay, got it. Maybe it's some issue at my end, but that's fine. Uh, so yeah. Raj, you were in India before actually going abroad for your education.
Right,
So
right.
you would have followed matches out here, like Indian football matches.
Yes,
And
definitely.
then you were in a completely different environment where maybe the use of analytics is a lot more as compared to
Yes,
India.
yes.
So could you share any experiences that you had while being abroad where you noticed that, oh, why can't this happen in India? Like there's something happening abroad, but you would want it to happen in India. Did it happen with you?
So there were like quite a few instances, but one that impacted very personally was when I was here in Bombay with Arsenal Soccer Schools, which is
Okay.
now La Liga Football Schools.
Hmm.
So I was working with them as the under 14 and under 12 coach. And whenever we used to go for our matches, for our trainings, we had no resources like that.
Hmm.
And when I when I was studying in Portugal, I used to go to Estoril, like youth team trainings also. Like I was working for the reserve team and the main team, but I used to go
Hmm.
for the youth team trainings, matches, just to see, just to like experience what's happening. And there you realize that even those under 9, under 10, under 12 teams have analysts, have people who are recording their trainings, even not even the matches but the trainings. And
Yeah.
the analyst makes a report, he talks to the players like as soon as the training gets over. There's a person who's taking care of their physical attributes. So uh, that is something that I felt like, okay, um, why can't I have one guy just to stand outside the pitch, helping
Yeah.
me record the training session while I'm
Hmm.
doing the training, and afterwards discuss with him
Hmm.
what I could have changed or what I could
Yeah.
improve in the next one.
Hmm.
So that was something I realized. And then there's another thing where for our reserve team in Portugal, uh, we had a website, or you can say an online platform where the the Portuguese Federation, they upload all the games of the matches that happen.
Okay.
So you don't really need to sit there and record the game, but you can
Hmm.
actually work while the game is going on. Like you
Hmm.
don't have to make that extra effort of recording and then going back and analyzing. You already
Got
have
it.
a video ready after the match, and
Hmm.
during the match you can give like live input to the coach, to the assistant coach about what is happening from outside. So that
Hmm.
is something I thought maybe is lacking.
Yeah. Absolutely. In fact, one of your students has actually joined in. He said that you were his Rishabh underscore
Oh
what stuff.
yeah. Rishabh
Yeah.
was with me in Arsenal. He was in the under
Yeah.
12 batch.
He says I was one of the students. Sir was the best. So you have fans. There are a couple of people who are also joining in from my college, my batchmates. So,
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, they had a question, a very pertinent question that
Right.
how is data actually changing the sports industry, especially in India? Like we have seen many trends that start in countries abroad, but then they are brought into India. So how is
Right.
data actually changing the game strategy, so to say?
So, like by the game strategy, you mean the how I am using the tactics and the
Yeah,
way my
exactly.
team is playing.
Let's say if Mumbai and Bengaluru are playing,
Right.
then how important is data analytics right now to understand that which flank would Udanta run on and
Right.
in which minutes would he commit a mistake that might lead to a goal or something like that. That
Right. So I'll give a very personal example. I was working with the reserve team in Estoril, and we had three different head coaches, and
yeah.
one of them was very insistent on live data.
Hmm.
So it's a bit difficult to do it when you have less resources, but it's very efficient because, for example, our game model was based more on counter-attacking football, right? And for counter-attacks, you need to have like a good shape where you don't give out a lot of spaces in between the lines, and all your players are like in sync. Like there is no free role for anyone when you are defending in a compact zone.
Yeah.
So what happened with him is he included, apart from all the analysis that we were doing, he came after the game, once after the game, and he's like, why don't we include interceptions leading to passes forward or passes sideways? So what happens is when I make an interception, which means I have an opportunity to go for a counter attack, which shows me that this is my style of play. So interceptions, being a point of reference, made a huge deal for us. And once we started analyzing that, we realized that okay, not a lot of our interceptions are going forward or going sideways. They are either dribbles where we have lost the ball, or they are going backwards to start build up again, which means we are going away from our style of play.
Yeah.
So we try to include this in our trainings also, in our practice matches also, and we used to give the head coach like live feedback saying that okay, we've in the first 15 minutes we've made like 9 interceptions, and only 3 of them are going forward. So we have only 30% you can say 30% chance of going ahead to score a goal, while we should be having more than 50%, because that is our style of play. That is what we need to follow all the time.
True.
So that is something that helped us a lot. Even when I was with Hyderabad, we used to use this for individual analysis. So how our striker should be facing when when our own goalkeeper has the ball, and
Yeah.
what body position he
Just to
should have.
interrupt,
sorry.
make sure you don't reveal anything confidential or
No,
anything else.
no, definitely not.
Yeah.
So when I was like just an example of how a striker's positioning should be, where he should be when our goalkeeper has the ball, or when our centre back has the ball, or when our right back has the ball. So
Yeah.
when you start noticing these things, when you get data about these things, you want to use it like at the same moment, because it is impactful only then. Like when you go back after the game, you can't change the result, you can't change the way he was standing in the game. So that is when it has more relevance.
Yeah. There's this question from Akash. So he says, "Hello sir, my question is regarding under 13 teams training session.
Right.
As most of the coaches can't record the full session, so how can we analyze the training session of the team and individual? Is there any better option?"
Okay, so I'll give an example from what I was doing with Arsenal Soccer Schools back in like 2017, 16 or 17, when I didn't have any form of, any person to record videos or to help me to analyze, or even I couldn't analyze because I was the one who was coaching them, and there was no assistant. So what I used to do was, we usually trained at a turf ground. So I used to ask the turf manager, like the person who owns the turf, like, can you please give me the video recording of this 1 hour?
Yeah.
Right. So that is one thing that we can do. Or else, in a lot of academies, you have operations managers who work with the coaches at particular venues. So maybe the operations manager can have a camera, like just a phone or a video camera, and record the session. Or even like if you don't have that facility, you can take down notes. You can ask him to take specific notes. For example, tell me the number of passes this guy makes, and tell me the number of interceptions that this team makes. So being very specific about these things becomes like easier for you to analyze it later on. So
True.
that is like one way. Another thing is, when you go for matches, when you go for tournaments, you always have a lot of parents, a lot of friends of the players who come there, who come to support. So maybe one of them can just have a phone in their hand, try to record the game. That is what we used to do back in like those days
Yeah.
when we didn't have these resources.
True.
So yeah, that is one thing they can start.
Yeah. So Omkar has a question for you.
Right.
What are the ideal physical stats a footballer, one second, should have, like height, weight, body mass? Does performance analysis help in achieve these stats?
Firstly, yes, it definitely does help, and it depends on the style of play, the positions you're using, the type of players you want to use, the game model that you have developed for your team. So, for
Yeah.
example, we went for a internship to Benfica for a week, and Benfica has this criteria of only like signing players who are of a specific height or who match a specific speed or who have like specific attributes at a certain age, because they predict that these players after 6 years, after 7 years, when they are 12, 13, after 7, 8 years, they'll be at some level where we'll make them professional players. So if you're not falling into those categories at 11, 12, 13, 14, then such a big club like Benfica, if they believe that it's working for them, like someone like João Felix, Bernardo Silva, so if things are not working for them, then we should take some learning from them that okay, these things are working. But at the same time, I don't think it should be very strict, because you cannot measure talent, you cannot measure the hard work that the player is going to put in. Obviously, you can measure the physical attributes, and they are there to be measured. But what happens is maybe a player might not be as mature physically as he is mentally.
Yeah.
So he might be one of the smartest players being in the under 13 age category, but he'll be very short and he'll be a bit plump. So I won't, like, as a coach, if I look at only the physical attributes, I won't take him. But if I look at the overall potential that he's going to achieve, then I'll be sure that okay, I can work on his physicality, I can send him to the gym twice a week, I can use my physical coach for him. The strength and conditioning coach can work with him after every session. But just to rate players based on their sole physical abilities is not the best thing, I would say.
Also, I have a question. When you talk about I-League is very open in terms of, having coaches stand there and maybe record sessions like when the match is actually going on. But ISL is much more strict from what I've observed. Like, other than authorized personnel, you can't have people there or even record a part of the session, like the match that's going on. So maybe the only option that coaches have left is that they record the training session and then analyze it, right? Or is there any option to actually get data even from the matches?
So I'll give you an example of I-League as well as ISL. In ISL, you need to register the number of staff that is going to work on a specific match day. So, for example, if you're going for a home game and you have staff available, you don't have the stress of expenditure for travel, for stay. So you have staff available. So you can include that staff for your match day. You can have an analyst on the stands who is recording the game, an analyst on the bench who is giving you live data. You can have one of the assistant coach acting as an assistant analyst who is giving you live data during the halftime, because that analyst cannot come down to the locker room. So this guy can join in the locker room. He can give you a few tips. He can give you like a few feedback points. In I-League, it is very similar, but the thing that differentiates is you don't have the, how can you say, it's not compulsory to give the whole match video to the opponent, right? Only if they ask for it, you give it. So that is
Yeah.
something that is different, which means that
Hmm.
even if I'm going for an away game, I need to have my own analyst. I need to have a
Yeah.
person who is always going to record the game. So that
Hmm.
becomes a bit difficult,
Okay.
like looking at the resources we might have.
Hmm. So, Raj, another question is when you have a player, let's say I play for your team, just a scenario,
Right.
and you have my stats, you have my performance analysis, all the data that you need, and
Right.
then for some reason I switch to another club.
Right.
So would Raj Vidai have the rights on the player data that I gave the club, or would I have the rights to actually stop you from using it against me?
No. So the thing is, data is meant to be shared, and
Okay.
even if you are going to a different team or you are joining a rival, there
Hmm.
is no one stopping you from sharing that data.
Okay.
But because you were a part of my team, I have some data about you. I have the right to use it. I have because it's with me. It is used for the club. You used to play for the club, and there are a certain uh, aspects maybe in the contract or maybe when you sign for the club, you have some clauses saying that okay, my data will not be shared, or if I leave the club, you will not be using my data. Then it's a different thing. But
Hmm.
most of the times, so I'll give you an example of PSG. One of
Hmm.
our professors in the course in Lisbon was the head analyst of PSG,
Hmm.
and he was tracking data for Mbappe for the last 4 years.
Hmm.
So if he is contracted with Monaco,
Hmm.
there is still a way of sharing data amongst coaches, amongst teams, amongst clubs,
Hmm.
where you can track a player's potential. You can see what he's doing in every game, what attributes is he having, what
Hmm.
are the physical statistics, what are the quantitative data that is coming on. So you can have these things, you can share these things, and I don't think there is any restriction as such.
Okay. Raj, could you talk about the importance of analysis of body language in a player?
Okay, so I'll give you an example of a coach first and then a
Hmm.
player, because it's important to understand from both the perspectives. There was last season, I think there was a game between Arsenal and Manchester United
Hmm.
where Unai Emery was the head coach. I think last season or last season, and it was raining. Like it was heavy weather. It was raining. It was in the evening. The game was in the evening, and this guy is wearing a jacket and he's wearing a hoodie on top, and it just shows your players, or it just shows the rest of the people watching, that while my players are playing, while my staff is sitting in the rain, while everyone is getting wet in the rain, I am still
Hmm.
looking for being secure. I am looking for security. I'm looking to hide.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that just shows the negative side of having being in the eyes of everyone. And even if you do a very small action, like there's a very viral video of Joachim Low, the Germany
Hmm.
head coach, picking his nose and eating it. So
Hmm.
these small things, if you're sitting at home, it won't matter any like for anyone.
Hmm.
But when
Hmm.
you're in the eyes of the public, when everyone in the world is watching you, it
Hmm.
matters a lot.
Yeah.
So like in the context of a player, I would say when you see your striker, someone like Ronaldo or someone like Lewandowski, missing like 4 chances in the first half,
Hmm.
but he's still encouraging his players to
Hmm.
work hard and fight, and then he scores a last minute winner. And
Hmm.
on the other hand, you see Jordi Alba crying inside the dressing room and the semi-final second leg against Liverpool. So
Hmm.
you see a very big difference in their body language, and you can say that okay, this guy is mentally very strong,
Hmm.
and you can analyze at that point. Okay, ये player like he is very strong mentally, and he is not going to back down even if we are 2-0 down. He is going to fight and make us win 3-2. Or on the other hand, you can say, okay, even if we are winning 1-0, because of this guy, we might lose 2-1. So that is something you can analyze, you can see. Even for a layman, it's it's easy to notice these differences. But when you're in the game, when you're involved in it day and night, you tend to look at these things very clearly.
Raj, I think it will be wrong to actually say that physical analysis is the only part of data analytics, in the sense that when you talk about how talented a Ronaldo is in terms of physicality or his physical skills, how important is it to actually track the psychological aspects of a player? And is there any team which actually combines the two aspects to make sure that the player is mentally well as well when he goes to play?
So a lot of teams do this when they are about to sign players. So when you are signing a player, you always hear about a medical check happening before the player signs for the club. So the medical check does not only pertain to your physical, structure or your physicality. It also pertains to your mental ability, your emotional ability, and obviously your technique, your tactics. It all comes down in the report. So when we talk about a player being fit for a game, or a player being ready to play after an injury or after a setback, like maybe a death of a closed one or something like that, when the press says, or when the coach in the media says that okay, this player is ready to play in the next game, he means that he is ready on all the aspects. He means that he is ready mentally, physically, technically. He's been working with the team, he's been in training continuously for the last 3 days. He's traveling with the team, he's eating with the rest of the team. He's not going back home because he lost his relative, but he's staying back with the team, and then he's mentally prepared for the next game. So from an analysis point of view, if you look at only the physical attributes, I would say, like you said, it's wrong to keep only that thing in consideration.
Yeah. Also, Raj, which data points should you use for specific styles of play? Like maybe players have a different style of play as compared to the traditional or orthodox.
Right. So I would say it depends on two things. Either your game model has a specific set of requirements for players, or you have an open playing style where you adapt according to the players you get. For example, in the under 12 Arsenal Soccer Schools team, I wouldn't have that freedom to have a game model of my own where I'm choosing players who are fitting into the game model. I'll have to adapt and change according to the players that are coming in the academy and the type of training that we are doing. So, for example, if I have 3 goalkeepers and I don't have a right winger who is training with me, so I'll have to play in a style where I don't have a lot of technical ability used from the wingers, because I don't have a winger. I'll have to adapt to the needs of the team and according to the abilities that the players are providing. On the other hand, when you're a club that is playing professionally, a club that is at the top level, you have the freedom to choose. You have the freedom to tell the player that okay, why don't you play like this, because this is what the game style needs, this is what we need from you. I know you were playing as a striker before, but now I want you to play as a false nine, because we already have 2 strikers playing in our team and they are already scoring 10 goals a season. So I want you to play as a number 9 because I think that attribute is good for you and I want that for my team. So that is the difference. Those are the 2 ways where you can use data and use analysis for your game style.
Hmm. I think that's very valid. Arbaz has a question for you.
Right.
Can a data analyst drive a team's style of play, or how much does a data analyst have an effect of club style of play?
Can you repeat the first part?
The first part is, can a data analyst drive a team's style of play, or how much of an impact does a data analyst have on the style of play?
Okay, so I'll give you an example of Liverpool. Liverpool has 4 analysts in their match day staff, and what they do is they have, in the past 4 years of Jurgen Klopp being there, they have improved their style of play because of the analysis that is happening behind the scenes. For example, they, I think in 2018, they found out that they were conceding a lot of, goal scoring opportunities to the opponent because of their throw-ins and goal kicks. So what they did was they hired a throw-in coach, and now you see a routine where there are 3 Liverpool players standing close to the ball, and they are constantly moving, and there's a 4th man who is running behind, and he gets the throw-in. So you see these changes happening in real life, and you can understand, okay, this was something different because someone saw that this was not working, and someone was, and I think it's also you can say it's also brave to come out and tell the head coach that okay, something is not right, because when he is the head coach and when you are an analyst, you have certain restrictions, you have a certain limit till where you can go out and tell him that okay, boss, you are wrong, or this is something that we should improve. And that is something that I really liked, and it's been working for them. So I would say, but definitely analysis has a huge part to play in how you change your style of play.
True, I think that also answers the question of Akash. He asked, how does an analyst work correlate with the coach's work, and how does analyst affect the coach's mentality or team? I think that answered this question as well.
Right, like just to add to it, for Akash, I would say being an assistant coach for me and being an analyst are very, very different things if you take into consideration the training, the post training, the match, the pre match, post match, a lot of things, because responsibilities are divided for both of them, and at a certain point you cannot mix these responsibilities. For example, you have when I was in Estoril, we were a group of 3 analysts for the team, and there were already 3 people, so the head coach, assistant coach, and the goalkeeping coach on the bench. So what happened was, there's one analyst who is looking at the quantitative data, that is the physical attributes, the number of passes, the you can like something you can quantify in numbers. There was another analyst who was looking at the qualitative data, that is looking at your playing style, looking at the opponent's playing style, and there is a third analyst who has a microphone connected to the microphone of the assistant coach, and he is constantly giving feedback after talking to the other 2 analysts. So when you try to show the responsibilities that each one has, and you share these responsibilities, it's much better than just one person or just 2 people being responsible for a lot of work.
True. So Raj, there's another question from my batchmate Devar. He asked, how long will it take for more importance to be given to performance analysts in India, and for Indian teams to have more than just one analyst?
Okay. Before coming on to India, even in Europe, other than the teams that are at the top level, they don't have more than one or two analysts in their team.
Hmm.
And very frankly speaking, it's not well paid enough to encourage you to get into analysis. So once that starts, once you have Europe giving more importance to analysis, Europe giving more encouragement to new coaches, new analysts, upcoming people for these kind of jobs, before that happens, you cannot expect that to happen in the rest of, because Europe is the epicenter right now. Europe is where stuff is happening. And when you compare it to India, we are on the verge of following a 6-year roadmap which has just come out like last year. And so once we implement these things, once we set out the basic foundation, once we have a basic structure for a club to work, then we can expect these things to come into place. And
Yeah.
until then, I would say, why not create opportunities? Why not create a situation where you are, um you don't have to ask someone to hire you, where people are coming to ask you that why don't you work for us? For example, uh, like uh, I used to, when I came back from Portugal, I was sitting at home and I was just thinking like, why don't I improve my analysis knowledge, my analysis work by starting my own blog?
Yeah.
And I just started writing. I just started cutting clips of videos, editing them, analyzing and putting up posts. And then someone noticed, and then someone is like, hey, why don't I send you clips of my teams, and why don't you analyze them and send it to me? So I'm sitting at home, but I'm working for a club or a coach who
True.
needs an analyst. So why not try to create these opportunities for yourself?
Hmm. I think that's a very valid point because even aspiring sports management professionals see data analytics as a very strong field. In the
Right.
sense, they want to be there. In fact, we had a lot of guest lecturers who also advised the same thing, that why don't you actually start off on your own? Just pick up random matches, create data points, and then maybe make a blog just like you did. So that's, I
Right.
think, an excellent advice for people. There is another question that's there. How can we start a career in this field, and how is it helpful in grassroots?
Uh, in grassroots, I think it's the most important, because that is when you know, that is when you can start predicting a player's potential. And at grassroots level, I don't think it's more relevant to a team, because we don't work on tactics as much. We work on the technical side of the team. We work on the technical aspect of the player. So it's more important to do it, on an individual basis than on a team basis. Yes, it is important to do it for a team, because
Yeah.
at some point in time you will have to use a specific set of tactics for your team, a specific game style. But uh, more importantly, it should be focused on the technical aspect, on the individual aspect.
True.
And what? Sorry, what was the first part of the question?
The first part was, how can people start their career in that field, as in as
Right.
a data analyst?
So for me, it started off with an internship. For a lot of people, it starts off with just doing analysis on their own and putting it out in social media, trying to attract clubs, coaches, trying to uh, create a network where you are sharing stuff and someone is sharing it on your behalf, and then the third person sees it and he's like, oh, this guy is doing some good stuff, I want him in my team. So maybe something like that, because it's not a prevalent thing in football as of now. It's starting to grow, yes,
Hmm.
but it's not having a stronghold in football right now.
Hmm.
So what happens right now is, you have an analyst for your team, and that analyst will continue with the head coach until the head coach leaves. right? And then he will not go out looking for another analyst. He'll be like, you worked with me for 2 years in this club, come with me to another club, we'll work there for some more time. So that is how things are happening right now. And because people trust someone who they are working with, and I don't think you can afford to, choose people every 2 years, every 3 years, and trying to define your playing style and trying to make them understand for the first year के भाई मेरे को ऐसे खेलना है. So for the first year he'll spend just learning how you are trying to play. In the second year you'll actually get to use him. So maybe I would suggest talking to coaches personally, talking to clubs personally who are keen on analysis, who are looking at people who want to do this kind of work, who want to grow in this field, and create situations for themselves, create opportunities for themselves.
Also, Raj, there has been a lot of foreign investment recently in Indian football, particularly with the City Football Group. So when you see foreign coaches who are well established and they have had prior experience in European countries come in to coach a club in India, would they be putting pressure on the team or even on the management that, look, I have performed well in this foreign club, and under me I had 2 assistant coaches, 3 analysts, and let's say 4 any other random staff. So maybe the fact that foreign investment is coming in, foreign clubs are coming in, that might force the management to actually hire more people, as in just to satisfy the coach's requirement.
Right. So why don't we look at it from a positive perspective? Why don't we look at it from a perspective of job opportunities being created for upcoming analysts, for upcoming coaches? And when we look at it from this perspective, we see that, okay, it's something good for all of us. It's something good for the coach. It's something good for the management. And it's something good for the person who's being hired as an analyst. And like I said before, like mostly a coach always trusts the people who he has been with before, who know how he works. So what happens is when a coach comes down to a developing nation like ours, or to Bangladesh, or to some small European country, and he's like, okay, I'll join your club as the head coach, but why don't I get this analyst and this assistant coach and this goalkeeping coach with me, because I trust them, and if you trust me, then I'm sure you will trust them too. So that can be one way. And another way is one way to look at it would be to connect with the local side of the team. For example, as an assistant coach, I would look at it as the head coach having information put into me to be translated to the local players, to the local staff. Because if he can't do it directly, he has my medium of doing it. And that helps him, that helps the club grow, that helps the players to understand him. So maybe we can look at it from this perspective also.
Yeah. Also, Raj, you would have coached a lot of young players in terms of coaching children while they are learning to play. Right. So my question was that when you talk about the adults, that is the professional players, they play to actually win always. Right. That's the main motive. But when you talk about grassroots, like at least till the age of 15 or even 13, the intention is playing to learn or having more of free play. So is the data analytics bit different as compared to professional football and grassroots?
Yes, totally different. So like you rightly said, at youth level, it's about developing the talent of the player, developing the individual. And at the professional level, it's about winning, it's about getting those 3 points, it's about traveling to a different city and not wasting your time. It's about like going there to win and get those 3 points. I don't want to see you making 10 passes more than last game. If you can make 5 passes less and we still win the game, I am okay with that. But at the youth level, I would rather have you make good 10 passes then make 5 bad passes and win the game. So that is something very important. And in youth football, analysis works mostly on a one-to-one basis. For example, I will not sit with the whole team and talk about just Adarsh making 10 passes that are okay, and 2 passes that were good. I'll sit with you separately. I'll talk to you after the game. I'll be like, okay, why don't you in the next game or in the next training, why don't you start receiving the ball when your body is open towards the pitch, so that you can receive and pass in 2 touches instead of
Yeah.
taking like 4 touches. So you increase the number of passes. So if I talk to you in a team environment, maybe I am, not making my point clear enough, because for a player who is playing at a different position, the situation might be different. And so if I'm just talking about you, he might take it personally and he might say like, okay, मेरे को ऐसा खड़ा रहने बोला है कोच ने, और मेरे को ऐसा रिसीव करके पास करने बोला है, तो मैं ऐसा करूँगा. And in the next game, that guy is not developing. So I would suggest it to be more personal, more individual. And when you keep going up the ranks, then it becomes more towards the team.
So Raj, as we head towards the end of the session, we have final 2 questions that I just put forward to you. The first one is from Hitesh. He says, basically, I am a civil engineer, and even I deal with basic analysis of data and statistics.
Right.
Is it similar to the way player stats are analyzed? Or in simple words, can I have a proper career in the same field, like in sports, data analytics?
Okay, so I'll talk about player analysis. I'll talk about data analysis of players. I would say the process is not very complicated. So first so there's a process where you observe first, then you identify what is going wrong, what needs to be improved, what is going right. Then you explain, then you like include the other person in the conversation, and you show him like, okay, this is what I observed, this is what my observation is, why don't you try this in the next training or in the next game. Then comes the implementation. So you observed and then you explained, and then that person has to implement it, and then you see the result, or you conclude it. And after the conclusion, you again observe, because why are you trying to implement something when you're not going to improve it again? So after the implementation comes the observation part again. And I would say, like, I wouldn't know about civil engineering as such, but if this process, or if this way of analysis and observation and implementation is similar to what he is doing, then I would say there are no, even if it's different, why not take something from here and put something there? Why not try to use or try to experiment something from a different perspective and use it in a different way? So what I did was, I actually started using I did a online course about sports psychology, and I know I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a person who should be dealing with these things, but I can at least with that knowledge be connected to the psychologist of the team. I can be connected with the players, thinking that okay, I learned about players' behavior, and this player is behaving in a similar way, he's showing similar traits. So why don't I talk to the psychologist and tell him, "Ke, acha bhai, can you talk to him?" So I took something from a different field, a different perspective, and I tried to use it in my own way, where I can, help the team, help the staff, help myself because
Hmm.
like I don't think knowledge can never be I don't think knowledge can ever be wasted.
Hmm.
Whatever you learn, you can use it in any way you want,
Hmm.
but then you have to choose what you are using and
Yeah.
why you're using. So
Hmm.
maybe the same thing for him. Maybe if
Yeah.
he can try to use something from civil engineering and something
Hmm.
from football analysis
Yeah.
and create something good out of it.
Hmm. In fact, what I could say is that it's more important to learn the skill of doing it, irrespective of
Right.
your background. You might be an engineer, you might be a doctor, but if you are good at analytics, you'll get the job.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Why not?
Hmm. Yeah. Also, one final question before we wrap up. You were a part
Right.
of the Premier League Next Gen games that happened, and
Right.
especially the part of the coaching session that happened as a part of the whole event.
Right.
What was your experience out there, and what were your key takeaways from that session?
So one thing that was very beautiful in that whole event was the coaches, the staff of the Premier League teams coming down, Chelsea, Manchester United,
Hmm.
Southampton. They didn't only interact with us, but they also shared what they were doing. They also showed us that okay, this is how we prepared for the whole event. This is
Hmm.
what we are currently doing. This is what we are planning to do after we go back to England. So that is one thing that I really liked, and how it impacts is when you hear a Chelsea under 14 coach saying that we made prior arrangements for food for our team to
Hmm.
when they are coming here. So if they are concerned about these small things, if
Hmm.
like some team could have been like okay, it's a very big facility, there'll be some or the other things there, and we our players will manage. But when they are concerned about these small things, when they are taking these things seriously, you
Hmm.
introspect and then you think like okay, when I'm coaching my team and when we are traveling, why don't I call the hotel where I'm staying 3 days early and I tell them that okay, why don't you give this food, why
Hmm.
don't you leave the gym open for 2 hours extra for my players.
Yeah.
So that way, that's how it was very impactful.
Hmm. I think it was very important even in terms of how the clubs actually value the smallest of details. Like,
Right.
from what I got to know, the Premier League has this rule that you can't, you know, basically have kids in a non-AC bus. Like, that's
Right.
one requirement. When players have to travel, they have to be in an AC bus. It has to be a Volvo. So, I think if the Premier League can put so much emphasis on such minor details, that is something that we can learn as Indian clubs.
Right, right, definitely. Like taking into consideration they have to play 2 matches in a day in Mumbai weather. So they
Yeah.
have to be concerned about these things. They have to
Hmm.
take care of the diet, they have to take care of the traveling part,
Yeah.
and they have to make sure that, because we are doing it for whom? We are doing it for the players.
Yeah.
And if they are not able to perform for any
Hmm.
reason, then
Yeah.
it's their loss as well as our loss. So
Hmm.
why don't we
True.
have everything ready, and then
Hmm.
we are not in a position to blame anything. We are not in a
Hmm.
position to shift blame onto anyone for something that didn't happen in reality, right? So
True.
that is something I also believe in, to not leave anything to chance. Because
Hmm.
if I know that I've prepared for everything,
Yeah.
and still if things don't work out, then
Hmm.
I go back, I sit with a notepad, I write down कि अच्छा ये नहीं हुआ था, या ये
Hmm.
हो सकता है नेक्स्ट टाइम, और मैं
Hmm.
ऐसे बात कर सकता हूँ नेक्स्ट गेम में. So
Yeah.
why don't we take it in this way where uh, for every experience you don't leave anything to chance. For every
Yeah.
event, for everything you're doing, you don't leave anything to chance. You prepare well,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then you see how things work out for you.
True. Raj, would you take 30 seconds to actually thank all your students because they've been studying the comment section right since the start? So maybe just
And thank you guys, thank you everyone for spending time, for coming here, for even when you're supposed to be it's a Sunday, you're spending time with your families, and you're still coming down here, you're giving time, you're putting in efforts, you're remembering, you're encouraging. That's very heartwarming. And I hope all the coaches, all the analysts, all the players, everyone involved with football in India gets this kind of support.
Yeah. So thank you to everyone who logged in, and thank you so much, Raj. It was our pleasure to have you on board on this live show, and we look forward to you excelling more and more in this career. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting.
Thank you.